already made up in our minds what we think about that individual. I'm Tris Berry, and today we'll be talking about effective communication and positive responses. Thank you so much for joining me. And you'll probably want to know, why are we even talking about this today? Well, communication is part of everyday life, be it a working relationship, a love relationship, personal interests, anything else. You'll always have to communicate, so why not get the responses and the information that you need and get it right the first time? So, that being said, stereotyping plays such a big part in the communication process and what we do. So, we'll be talking about that a little bit later. Just want to give you a bit of background. The book that I'll be referencing today is Looking Out, Looking In. And I had the opportunity to take a communications class called Introduction to Interpersonal Communication. And I took that with Professor Jennifer Prius. She holds a master's degree and she works in the communication department at Ivy Tech. And I had the opportunity to take her class last semester, and we just learned about the whole communication process, how it works, the views on it, the research that's been done. And so I'll be sharing some of that with you. Today you'll learn about the environmental factors and cultural differences that play a part in effective communication, as well as stereotyping, as I mentioned before, how that plays a part, and things that we can do to kind of turn that around if we're having some trouble with our communication process, and just things that we can do better because there's always room for improvement. That being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Communication process in earlier communication. Um, if you hear, there's some noises going on in the background, and you haven't seen the audience yet, or you haven't heard from them yet, but I have a couple of coworkers that are going to be helping on today, and you'll hear from them in a little bit because we're going to do some audience participation. So hang tight, and you'll hear from them in just a minute. So as I was saying, in earlier views, our views on communication were what were called a linear view. And a linear view was something that looked something just similar like this, or as a demonstration anyway. Just like this, just straight. And this would imply that communication happens this way, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Communication actually doesn't happen back and forth. Communication would be actually on both ends of this spectrum, and it happens at the same time. It happens at the same time. So it's going, going, going. Because even if somebody is talking to you and you're not saying anything, your mind is already going while that person is talking. And so the communication is going back and forth, and we see that in body language and various other things. So we know that, and that view is actually called a transactional view, and that's the view that most communicators and things like that in that profession reference these days. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the environmental and background, the different things that play part in the communication process. There's different things in the environment, like whether it's wet or if it's cold, if it's raining, a garage, an alley, any various things like that that play such a big part in the communication process. There's also cultural things in the background that play part, because maybe in my culture it's okay to do something, but in your culture you would find it the same thing to be offensive. So we have to take into consideration such things like that. Now, there's different extremes that we can reference that from, but say for instance, if I called my husband on the phone, and my husband is such a wonderful and sweet guy, and I said, let's
Oh,
give him
boo
a
boo.
call. Let's give him a call. I just want to let him know that I love him. It's ringing.
Hello.
Hey, honey, how you doing?
Good.
You know, babe, I just called to tell you that I love you. I hope that
Hmm.
you are having a wonderful day, and I just want you to know that I love you. Are you doing okay?
I'm doing just fine, baby. Thank you for asking.
Okay, honey, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.
Well, I'm sure that my husband appreciated that phone call, but you know, at the same time, say for instance, if I took the afternoon off and went down to his job and stopped by the bakery and got him a dozen of his favorite cookies, it would give a different message, um, that will be a little more intense, you know. So I just try to do that example so that you will understand how to think about things and to be conscious of what we say to people, how we interact that communication that we want and get the results that we need. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to do something like that at work. You might get slapped with sexual harassment, but you just want to just be conscious of the things that you're doing. So, and in order to do that, you need to be able to give yourself an honest chance in order to give that person an honest chance. And we do that by just remembering that on the other side of things, that there's other people that are stereotyping and looking at you, who are determining and giving an impression in their mind about you in the first few seconds, just like you are them. So now let's talk about stereotyping. Stereotyping plays such a big part, and right now we're going to have a little bit of audience participation, because sometimes you can have bad experiences in life, and say for instance, growing up, you lived around some maybe Native Americans that weren't very nice, not very kind, and so those Native Americans, that reality in your mind, because the things that we believe about people are realities in our mind, and so those things are what become true. So you may think that Native Americans are mean, but in reality, it's just that you had bad experience with them. So I asked the audience a little bit earlier just to throw out some things. I'm going to name off a couple of things and just throw out what you think. Chinese people.
Flat booty.
Skinny eyes.
Skinny eyes, okay. African Americans.
Big lips.
Big lips.
Out of work.
Out of work. Okay. Native Americans.
Casino.
Casino.
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas. Well, you can see that the crowd is awfully boisterous today. And no judgment, no anything like that. I thank you for your responses. And as you can see, we know that all Native Americans or Chinese people don't have skinny eyes. All Native Americans don't go to casinos. Those things are what we call claims. And claims are said without any hesitation, and they're just said without even really thinking about it. And sometimes we could say things off the top of our head and it becomes offensive to somebody else. And we won't mean to be offensive to that person, but that's why we have to think about what we say when we're communicating with people, and know that those are things called invalid bases. And those invalid bases are the things that throw people off and kind of make you not get the responses that you need. So you have to be conscious about that. Now, in order to be conscious about that, maybe one thing that you can do is think about your instances in the past and the way that you've hurt people, to kind of help you stay on track about things. And when you do that, that's one of the best ways, because you're identifying with yourself about how you've hurt somebody, and you will want somebody to do the same thing to you. So now let's talk about relationships and forgiveness. And even when you're hurt and there's things like that that happen, you have to be able to forgive that person, to be and also to be forgiving, to forgive and to be forgiving as well. And easier said than done, but you have to do it. You have to do it, or you'll live your life in just misery. And nobody wants to do that. So be willing to apologize, be willing to forgive, and you also have to know, in forgiveness, it's an unrealistic expectation to believe that forgiveness is immediate. That almost never happens. And we don't really say that, but you have to know that forgiveness is almost never immediate. Now, one thing that is actually a really big thing to me is R.F. Walters. He's been such an inspiration in his writings and things like that. And here's a quote that he said: "Whenever we have been hurt, we have two alternatives: be destroyed by resentment, or forgive. Resentment is death. Forgiving leads to healing and life." I don't know about you, but I choose life, and I hope that you choose it with me. Learn how to communicate and communicate well. And